Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I'm Rita Oliver. I am the money strategist, the CEO and founder of Strategies, Options, and Solutions. And it is October the 18th, and we are now 18 days into National Financial Planning Month. October is not National Financial Planning Month. And so, that financial plan is that plan that all of us need. It's not for the 1% incomers. It's not just for the wealthy. The 100% of us, all of us need a financial plan. And one of the pillars in the financial plan is the emergency fund. And we're going to talk about that today here on Facebook. So come on in, share this out for all of you watching us live and all of you that will see it on the replay. Please put your questions in the comments and we will answer them. I am really excited, and you all know that follow me here. I'm always excited to talk about money. And today I'm really excited to talk about it because I have a guest here from the Sunny Day Fund. Her name is Rachel Fox, and she is the manager of business development. So Rachel, would you please introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, and also about the Sunny Day Fund.
Yeah, thanks so much, Rita. I'm so excited to be here with you. Thanks for that kind introduction. My background is really in employee benefits. So in 2002, I got my insurance license. I still have an active insurance license. For the past 2 decades, I've really been helping employers really try to have a nice, robust benefits package to protect their employees from the what ifs in life, right? That's what insurance is all about. So I have both been on the carrier side, and I've also worked as a health broker. And I'm really excited to now be on the financial side of benefits. So the world of financial employee benefits, I feel like is just blossoming. I think that up until recently, it's really just been retirement accounts, right? But I think that there's a lot of other options that are starting to happen, both as a result of federal legislation and just out of kind of post-pandemic necessity. I think a lot of people realize, man, I need to have some more things to fall back on. So this market is kind of being created along the employee benefits spectrum, where we've got health benefits on one side, retirement benefits on the other. And now in between those is being created a brand new market about emergency savings. And all of that is designed to support the retirement savings, right? So many people have kind of gone into retirement unprepared, either because they didn't save enough or they had to withdraw from it because they didn't have any other money saved up. And we really want to keep retirement benefits for retirement. So emergency savings benefits, or ESAs, emergency savings accounts, are really becoming popular as a way to offer more employees those options, so they can payroll deduct this just the way they do with their retirement accounts. And then it's just kind of set it and forget it. It's a way to pay yourself first for the most important things that we need to do in life. And what we're doing here at the Sunny Day Fund is just that, helping employers set up this automated employment benefit system. So it's on the financial side. So same way with retirement accounts, right? How many people would participate or contribute to their retirement accounts if it wasn't payroll deducted and employer rewarded? We're taking that same concept that works really well for retirement and putting it towards emergency savings, because we know that a lot of people need immediate financial relief. They need immediate financial strategies in order to protect those long-term ones. So Sunny Day Fund has really come in to make savings easy, accessible, rewarding, get more people engaged in having that strategy to take care of not just the long term, but also the short term, both the rainy days and the sunny days of life.
I absolutely, Rachel, that is wonderful. I absolutely agree with that. When I opened my financial coaching business in 2016, and then from now, these past 6 years, I've always talked about an emergency fund when I've done lives, or even in the book that I wrote, in just any conversations, any presentations that I have done. I've always talked about the emergency fund. As a matter of fact, last year, I was hired, or earlier this year, I did a presentation for an organization, and the title of it was Girl is Storming Outside, Build Your Emergency Fund. So the emergency fund, as I say, and I said in that presentation, it is the pillar in any financial plan. It is the strong pillar. It's really the foundation. And you said it all when you said about the automatic savings. I coach people that savings should be a fixed expense. It should be a fixed expense. And really, savings should come out of your paycheck before you ever get your net income. That is how you ensure that you pay yourself first, because as you just said, your retirement is coming out that way. And we really do have to really encourage more, promote more the emergency fund, because we have more emergencies today than ever. And people need to have what I say, liquidity and access to that money to take care of the unforeseen circumstances in life. And one of the things I coach on is that we save for three things. You save for emergencies, you save for large purchases, and you save for retirement. Yep. And if you save for emergencies, that is starting to build the mindset of savings. That's starting to build that mindset of savings. Because if you don't have that mindset of savings, you're never going to do it. So it is important that they start to get that, and that the Sunny Day Fund is really, and we're going to talk about it moving forward, to work with employers to help employees do it. Because if you have to move the money on your own after you get paid, it is probably 90% unlikely that you're ever going to do that. Nope. If it's not taken out automatically. But even when that happens with emergencies, we still have to help them to build the mindset that you don't touch it to go for a sale. You touch it when you have something that fails.
Yeah. And I love what you said about there's three different categories, because retirement is really important. I think that future generations, they're not going to have pensions, Social Security, like all those. You can't depend on those things. You really need to do it yourself. Nobody's going to do this for you. And so it really has to be an automated thing that and it doesn't have to be a ton. Just something's better than nothing. Just get started. It doesn't have to be this big mountain to overcome. Just do what you can right now and just increase it as you go. But the other two parts of it, the emergency savings, because nobody's got a crystal ball, right? Like you do not know when something is going to come up and happen. So you've got to be able to plan for those, but also the sunnier days in life, like, right, the aspirational goals. We want to teach people how to save up for that, security deposit, or to buy a car, or to go on vacation with your family, or to get your kids a really great Christmas present, or whatever it is. And unless you formulate a path of how to get there, it's just wishful thinking. It's just, I hope I get there someday. And there's a way that you can be strategic about it.
That is true. But what we are seeing, Rachel, in the trend, that we have to change, and hopefully, and then I'm going to get into and once I make this comment, I want you to talk about the Secure Act.
Yep.
Is that what we're seeing is people are using a credit card for emergency fund. People don't have the cash readily available because they haven't made it what I call a priority. We have a tale, there was a book, A Tale of Two Cities. We have a tale of two wallets out here, an unknown wallet and a known wallet.
That's right.
And so that unknown wallet is where there's a lot of debt, there's unconscious spending, there's overspending. People are not really saving a lot for retirement. Whereas the known wallet, we've got a priority that we've got to have emergency savings. Then we have the appropriate amount of money assigned. We've got the appropriate amount of money allocated, and then it's aligned with our goals. So tell us more about what the Secure Act is going to do to help this, because I know there was a Secure Act 1.0 2019 that increased the required minimum distribution age for retirement, addressed retirement, moved it from 70 and a half to 72. But now 2.0 is saying, let's take a step back and get more into the fundamentals with the emergency fund. So tell us about it.
Yeah. And so, the House had passed this year in March, they had passed the Secure Act 2.0. And, the Senate's going to have their own version of this similar bill. It's a couple little changes in there, but the Rise and Shine Act is in there. Hopefully they'll be able to kind of come together and pass something before the end of the year. It's probably going to be in the lame duck session. We'll see when things happen. But on a federal legislation perspective, this is getting attention because the lawmakers are like, we have to prepare people for retirement because, again, Social Security isn't going to be there. We have to make sure that people are taking those initiatives to do it. The easiest way to do that on a math basis is to do it through employers. And there still has a lot of work to do on the retirement side. So the Secure Act at 2.0 and the Rise and Shine Act still focus a lot on retirement savings. It's about savings overall, right? It's the whole big savings umbrella. We know that, only about half of Americans work for companies that offer some sort of retirement savings. So whether that's, going to be like a 401k, or if it's going to be a pension, only half of Americans have that. So they're really trying to make it more accessible. So what they're doing is there'll be an automatic enrollment component in there. So that's going to apply for both 401ks, and hopefully down the line, that's going to extend to emergency savings as well. Because if you can automate that from the beginning and just get used to dealing with the amount of money that you have in your net income and not trying to divvy it out after you get your hands on it, it makes it so much easier. If you can just automatically enroll in that, you never see that money, the government knows that's going to be a benefit to you.
Well, and go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, you just said something key. You said that you can understand that it's a benefit to you and it's automatically enrolled and it's taken out. And what you're talking about here is what I see in the financial coaching business. And the biggest thing for us, all of Americans, it is the behavior with money. It is our behavior with money. It first starts in the mindset, which of course we are not born with. It's formed based on our caregivers, on how we saw people when we were reared as children, how they managed money, what we saw, what we heard. And we have that with us until we get a new experience. Then it's about the behavior. So it's that behavior. And one of those first behaviors that I've seen for the last 6 years is that people really don't know their income. They are caught up on that gross number. That gross number is what's paid for the position. You have to live on what hits the bank. And that is where we have the big gap, Rachel, of why people are not saving any money, is because they are trying to live to what their gross salary is supposed to be. And they're not looking at the actual of the net, and then doing additional things of having the money taken out to be saved. It's their mindset and their behavior, and then the actions, not making a smart decision with the money.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't know how much they're paying in taxes and how that's broken out. They have no idea what's coming out of their paycheck and where it's going to and what it's for. So a lot of that has to just be the education of where is your money going? Like, you start off with this much, where is your money going? If you want to do certain things with it, understand what's happening to it and where it's moving. And I think that too, we're just not teaching frugality anymore. I think that we're not teaching people how to get the necessities in life before you get all the shiny things. Everybody wants all the shiny things, but they don't have everything else taken care of.
We're not teaching people how to be patient and wait.
Yeah,
because
and work for
we
it.
have an instant with our phone that we can do whatever we want to in an instant here. We can message somebody, we can call somebody. But when it comes to our money, we're not being patient in our purchasing power, because a credit card allows you to get it today and pay for it tomorrow. But when it ends up happening is we accumulate a lot of money that's owed for tomorrow.
Correct. And I think that that's a big part of what this legislation is about, and kind of the mission that we're on at Sunny Day Fund. We're trying to really swing the pendulum away from debt and towards savings. Everybody is incurring debt on everything. And that is not something that we should be doing. It's like, we start earning interest instead of paying interest, right? And instead, it's like, oh, I'll just pull out of my 401k if something happens, or I'll just apply for a loan, or I'll just put it on the credit card. And this is not a good financial strategy. So all financial planners are going to tell you should have 3 to 6 months of savings saved up for those emergencies. They are not saying just get 3 to 6 credit cards for those emergencies. And that is what is wrong. Right?
I agree, Rachel. And I'm here to tell you, for me in my practice as a coach, depending on what I see in each case, in some cases, I tell people they need 9 months, maybe even a year. Look what happened to us in the pandemic. So, a lot of, when we went into the pandemic, a lot of companies downsized, a lot of people lost their jobs. Even though you had stimulus checks that came in for some period of time during that, people still, and they had unemployment, which they had an additional amount of money. But when I look at that, and I've encountered people that got all of that stimulus money. And when you count it up, particularly if you have a family of 4, husband, wife, and 2 children, you're talking about, in those stimulus checks, around about $10,000 to $12,000. Then unemployment, they were getting $900 a week. That's $3,600 a month. There was a lot of money that ran through, but people went out and bought stuff instead of putting that money away. And I wonder, well, and sometimes I have encountered it, that people just see it sitting there. Mm-hmm. And not being patient to let it sit there and let it do what it needs to do for you is give you safety and security.
Yeah, or to say, where is this going to do the most good? What can I do with this? Let me have a strategy for this instead of, I mean, if it's like that and you just have money falling from the heavens, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to go spend it on something? Or are you going to pause and be like, oh, maybe I should be strategic about this somehow? But we're not teaching economics anymore. And I think a lot of the younger generations, they just haven't been taught a lot of this, right? They've seen their parents use credit cards at the grocery stores. You know, I've done that with my own kids. I had to pay in cash one time, and my son was like, "Mommy, why are you giving him all this money?" And I was like, "What? How?" He's like, "Just put it on your credit card." It was like, okay, so see, there's a disconnect. It's actual money there, right? But it's just numbers on a screen now. It's not something that we hold anymore, and so the shift is there. So our approach with at Sunny Day Fund, because we're helping to actually create behavioral changes around financial behaviors. I think that people have to be retrained and learn some new strategies because this is a change, right? And people are resistant to change even when it's positive. So we're working with the employer and CFOs, and obviously they're on board. It makes sense for them. They would like to have a more financially stable workforce. They would like people who could afford to get their car fixed when it breaks down instead of missing some days from work. They would like employees to have a savings account to fall back on instead of pulling out of a retirement account, because that creates all sorts of headaches for the employer if we're having top heavy issues. And then again, people are just unprepared in retirement in general. So we're creating these emergency savings accounts for employees, but we have a lot of like behavioral principles built into how our app works to encourage you to stay true to your savings goals. Because if you do have just liquid money in a pool somewhere, it's real tempting, right? So you've got to put a little bumper cars, some bumper rails on there to help people stay true to their savings intent. So we help them payroll deduct that money into an account that we set up for them. Our plan is intentionally an out of plan version. So there are in plan versions that are kind of linked to the retirement account, maybe sidecar accounts. There's just some different rules. Our emergency savings option is an out of plan option. So it's completely separate from the retirement account. It's outside of ERISA. There's no Form 5500 to file. There's no open enrollment. It's all post-tax dollars, right? It's because we want it to be very accessible. We want people to have access to their money. We don't want it to be some sort of grant where people have to, parade their financial personal information in front of a third party to see if it qualifies for withdrawal. Like, we want to teach people to be independent with their money and make the right decisions. So yes, we're going to establish a new savings account for them. The money goes there, but to hold those savings goals true, we have a couple behavioral principles built in. So we're first going to do some mental accounting with them and ask them to say, all right, you've got this money. What are you saving up for, right? You should definitely have an emergency fund, right? We always joke that every sunny day fund comes with a rainy day fund. So that needs to be there. But aside from that, I want to switch the flip on them thinking about, what can I save up for? What am I going to need in the future? What do I need to plan for? What would I like to plan for? Whether it's a vacation or getting my kids some amazing game system at Christmas that I would never be able to afford unless I plan for it, or a car down payment, or whatever their goals are. We want to get them thinking about that. And then if they want to make a withdrawal, we're going to ask them to verbalize what that withdrawal is for so that they stay true to their goals. If it's for a car repair, type in car repair. That's great. You're feeling good because you're prepared. But if you're taking it out on something kind of frivolous, like you want to buy a new pair of shoes, or you saw a jacket or something like that, are you going to type in car repair and actually go spend it on a jacket? These are kind of like guilt trip things, but we're asking you, is this your intent for this money? And then, of course, when they take it out, we're going to introduce loss aversion too, because we want the employer to be rewarding these savings behaviors. So if the employee is treating it as a spending account and taking money out as quickly as they're putting it in, the employer is not going to reward that behavior. But if the employees are really starting to accumulate savings of their own because they've embraced these new behaviors, that is the kind of behavior that we want the employer to reward with kind of a match or some sort of reward for whatever the employee is doing.
And I think that's a great thing, because you've talked about a lot surrounding this. Because really and truly, it's about awareness and accountability.
Yes.
What you're kind of the behaviors you're to me, when I listen to you, you're talking about the employee becoming aware, number one, of setting a goal, being involved in this, and then being accountable to that goal. That if you save for this money and you say, I'm going to take it out for a car repair, and you go spend it on something else, then you've lied to yourself. Right. You're not accountable. And you got to be aware and accountable for your money. and accountable to yourself, because you will never ever get ahead of this game. You won't. You'll always be uh, looking around for money, and you'll always be riddled with debt. And once you are riddled with debt, debt is a detractor, subtractor, and disruptor. It's a disruptor while you're working, and I can tell you it's a disruptor to you in retirement, because I coach on retirement. The biggest issue I see in people being unprepared and getting prepared for retirement is the amount of debt. So if you continue to go into the debt here, as Rachel is talking about, I'm talking about here, it is not going to be a good thing for you down the road, because it's got to be paid at some point. And even if you think about filing bankruptcy, that's not the way you want to go, because you got to even pay to go into bankruptcy, but it's going to ruin your credit. But when you are working, and I think, Rachel, and also too, what I'm hearing from this point from you is that when you're working, and I teach this point, you need to leverage your benefits here. And what Sunny Day Fund is doing is trying to bring an additional benefit to you when you're working. And that is that you're prepared for the what ifs and unforeseen circumstances in your life, because they are going to occur. And if you got to throw it on a credit card, that's a problem, because with the interest rate increases, it's going to be 30% interest on that. And then trying to get it out of your 401k, you're talking about either a loan or withdrawal that's going to hit you 20, 30%. You're not going to get all the money you need. And that's setting you back with retirement. So it is, if you start with $10, $20, anything is better than zero. But you know, Rachel, I'm going to ask you a question. I know some people listening to us, or whenever they do listen on this, they said, well, you know, Rachel, how am I going to create this fund if I don't make a lot of money? What am I, how am I going to do it? What do I do?
Yeah. And keep in mind, who are the people that probably need to create this fund more than anyone else, right? If you have lots of assets and resources, you probably have lots of things to fall back on if something happens. But if you really don't have as many assets and resources, it's even more vital that you take care of yourself and position yourself wisely for future events. We all know something is inevitably going to happen. It happens to all of us, right? We've all been knocked off our horse a time or two. So again, I would say start small. Doing something is better than doing nothing. You can't just sit there and say, I can't do it, because then your future is never going to change from your present. You're never going to get ahead. You're never going to make a change. It's never going to be a sustainable, meaningful change. But if you just start, even with 1 hour's worth of wage per week, right? If somebody's making $17 an hour, we encourage you, put $17 a week aside into this fund. Set it and forget it. Have it be automated directly from your paycheck so that you don't get your hands on it. Once it's in your hands, it's a lot harder to separate. It's a lot harder to peel some dollar bills out of your fist and put it into that cookie jar over here and not tap into that cookie jar. So if you can have it in a set it and forget kind of way where it's out of sight, out of mind, and then it's there if something happens. Even if it's $5, even if it's $10, do something. Don't just say, I throw up my hands and say, I can't do anything. Because nothing's ever going to change.
You've already given up before you started. You've given up before you
started. And unfortunately, I feel like a lot of people fall victim into some of these things that again are not going to create financial stability. So we have a lot of these like earned wage access programs and things like that where you can borrow against your future paycheck. But if money was tight today, you're just going to decrease your next paycheck. And that's just kicking the can down the road. We need to create meaningful financial change and true stability in the future. And that's going to take a little bit of a sacrifice. It's going to take a little bit of a rebooting in your brain about what do I really need, right? What do I need most versus what do I need now?
Priorities. We got to set priorities. That's it. That's that known wallet. When you have a priorities, that means to me, you know your wallet.
And I love how you always talk about this kind of holistic idea of seeing the whole pie, seeing all the money and where is it's going. If you think about how much money you've earned over the course of your working years and total that up, it is a scary big number, friend. Where has that gone? What have we done with that money, right? It's not like you're not making money. It's that we're not holding money. It just slips through our fingers like a sieve. So empower your future by making changes to your present. And it is going to take a little bit of sacrifice. It's not just going to happen. You're not just going to win the lottery, right? It's going to take an actual intentional change, but it can be done and it doesn't have to be that painful. It can be small incremental doses. And then every time you get a little bump and raise, just put that into something else where you're not seeing it, right? I know it makes it harder when inflation is tough, but it takes a couple sacrifices to ensure that your tomorrow is going to be brighter than your today.
Absolutely. And what you said is so true. It's the sacrifice. I believe people sacrifice, Rachel, for what they want to, for whatever they want.
Exactly.
They just do. People in America, if they want something, they find a way to get it. And so we just need to switch as she said, flip the switch. We need to make a sacrifice here to save, because you're going to need it. And I can speak, Rachel, I just talked about, asked you the question, people that don't make a lot of money, but I can attest to a federal, I'm a retired federal government employee and retired, making a great salary. I was making a six figures, Rachel, but didn't have the emergency fund because of my spending. I can admit that. I admit that freely to people. To help someone, to let them know it's not just people making little money, it's people making a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
And I've come across that don't have any savings at all, very little, because everything is spent on expenses, the expensive housing, the cars, the trips, all this other stuff. And there's not much of any in an emergency fund. So they really fall hard too when the shoe drops for unforeseen circumstance.
Yeah, we know that 39% of Americans making over $200,000 a year are still paycheck to paycheck. So this is not about, I just need to make more money and all my problems are going to go away. It's about, I make more money and I spend more money and I'm in the same exact financial situation. So we have to kind of, again, recalibrate. These are necessities. These are luxuries. And right now, everybody wants the shiny phone and the car, and I need these shoes and I need all the things because I want all the things. But we don't have anything to fall back on, right? We don't have anything actually for ourselves. And this whole pay yourself first thing, like, it is really important. Prioritize yourself, have confidence, respect for your future, make something happen. Don't wait for something to happen to you. Be intentional about your goals and your future. We know that just having $1,000 saved up will cut retirement dipping in half. Like, so for people who just for companies that are struggling with, how do I get people to stop taking withdrawals from my retirement account? If it's the only pool of money available, it is vulnerable. Let's create another pool of money that's actually accessible and designed to be used in hardships, because hardships happen. We can't just stick our fingers in our ears and like, la, 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 that's not going to happen. We know it's going to happen. What is our strategy? What are we telling people to do? What direction are we pointing them to? If we don't have an emergency savings account, we're pointing them to the retirement accounts. We're pointing them to credit cards. We're pointing them to payday loan sharks and all the other things that they can fall victim to, instead of having a feasible strategy that we can empower them now. It just takes knowledge. It just takes knowledge and a little bit of behavioral changes, and little incremental changes can really start to pile up and make significant impact in just a year or two. It doesn't even take a really long time. It's just a year or two. I mean, if you're saving about $18 out of your paycheck every week, and your employer is helping you by rewarding you for some of that savings, within a year, you'll have over $1,000 saved up, right? Yeah. And that can really help with those car repairs or whatever happens. The hurricane came, there's all kinds of things that can come. And we need, most of those things take money.
You had the Hurricane Ian in Florida. Yeah. And you think about it, devastation. So sorry for all of that. But then when you see the news, the people that they talked to said, I've lost everything. I don't know how we're going to get started. I don't know where we're going to start here, because it didn't have flood insurance. So then that tells me it may not be much in savings either. So where do you start? So then the maximum they're going to get from the government is $37,000. That's not a lot to start over with in today's time. So that's why having an emergency fund, having money put away helps you, because even when you retire, you still got to save an emergency fund. I'm here to tell you that as a retirement coach. You still got to save. Savings is deferred consumption. Or let me simplify. Money you don't spend. That's all it is. Money you don't spend until you have to, until you need to. That's what it is. And so we have to embrace and start to love that behavior. And I had to embrace and love it, because I, by myself, Rachel, I didn't have a second income to fall back on. So there was nowhere to bounce except to the hard concrete. And so I had to get it, that I had to have money. And I can say, once I started that behavior, then it never stopped. It never stopped. Once I got it.
And we talk with employers about that as well, because you might have employers that say, well, I've got kind of a younger workforce. They're not really highly compensated. They're not participating in the 401k. And I'm like, listen, an emergency savings fund is not going to cannibalize your retirement participation. They're sisters. They're two sides of the same coin. They need to go hand in hand. People need to be contributing to retirement. People need to be contributing to emergency savings. It's not one or the other. They both have a place there. They both support each other. But we have to get moving. We have to build momentum and do something. We can't just let people just continue to say, well, I just can't afford to do that. I mean, you can't afford not to do that.
I absolutely agree. I say it all the time. You can't afford not to. Savings is for I said three things: emergencies, large purchases, and retirement.
Yep.
Those are three things. That's basically two words: today and tomorrow. That's what we're talking about. Because you need to save today for something that could happen tomorrow. And then you need your retirement for a long, long tomorrow, because you've got to have that cushion here. So we talked, Rachel, about why it's important, how they've got to do it. And you all at Sunny Day are bringing up a new way for them to do it, working with employers, helping employ. And then with this, hopefully when the law is signed, employers have more of an incentive to do this. As you said, it's going to work for them on productivity and less administrative work, taking money out of 401k. So then when we talk about taking it out, we talked about it a little bit, but I think we still need to talk just a little about when they do take it out, what are they taking it out for? When should they take it out? Because that's that behavior too. Because you can have a person that hasn't had any money. Then once they get $2,000 saved, that they can go blow it on a trip. But this is the emergency fund. So when do we take it out? What is the right way, so to speak, if I can say it like that, or the reasonable way that when you look at what's an emergency?
Yep. And again, I think a lot of that comes back to accountability, right? So I think it's important to work with people about, what do you want to do? What do you want to have in your life? And if you want to have this thing, let's establish a goal for that thing that you can work for. Do not steal from your emergency fund for this thing. It's about kind of doing that mental accounting, and there's room for everybody to play nicely in there. You can have more than one goal. And it's important for you to have more than one goal, because I want you to have aspirational goals. I want you to aspire to something. I want you to work for this, and I want you to feel joy when you see that paycheck come in and see that timeline get a little bit closer to your goal. You know that you're going to accomplish these things now. It's not just wishful thinking. You can actually see when you're going to get there. But that emergency fund needs to be preserved. And at Sunny Day Fund, when an employee makes a withdrawal, we ask for an optional. We have like a memo bar in there. We can't require anybody to do that. And we anonymize the data, we aggregate the data so that it's, private, but we try to give employers a list of, these are the top reasons your employees have taken out of their emergency fund. So, and it varies from, location to industry to demographics and that sort of thing. But I think it's really helpful for employers to get an idea about, what are my employees spending money on? Because, we have a retirement account, which again should remain untouched. We have a lot of other great benefits. We've got life insurance, right? We've got voluntary benefits. We've got an HSA. We've got all of these other benefits. But a lot of times, maybe it's just something random that comes up that was completely unforeseen. Maybe they need it before they're 65, so a retirement account won't help. Maybe it's not for a medical event, so the HSA won't help. It's like we have all of these little columns that have to be checked for certain withdrawals on other benefits. This is just hardship money for whatever. It's whatever people want it to be for. And one person's emergency in this category might not be their emergency over there. People have different priorities, but ultimately you need to stay true to your savings goals for the aspirational things. And the emergencies are really for unforeseen hardships, things that you otherwise would put on the credit card, that you would withdraw from your 401k for, whatever that might be. Maybe it is an unexpected death in the family and the funeral's falling to you unexpectedly. Maybe it's a car repair that came out of the blue that you really don't have any other way to pay for. Maybe it's a natural disaster that you didn't have flood insurance for, or anything else. So a lot of those things, it's going to vary tremendously, but we're going to aggregate and anonymize that data and give it back to the employer so they can really see where the employees need these resources to go and what they're using it for. Because it's nice to know that they're not just buying shoes with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, shoes are nice, so I attest to that, Rachel. But still it's about priority. You save for the shoes. You know, you should have the disposable income after you've saved your money and put your money in retirement to get those shoes. So,
And
you know,
another thing I just really quick that I
ahead.
wanted to do,
Sure.
the other thing that we have seen a lot is people taking out money for some sort of family emergency. So it's really nice that people can help each other and they, you know, depend on each other. And I think that that's something we want to foster. That's not really something that any other benefit is going to help you out. If your aunt
Okay.
or your niece or your cousin or somebody comes and really needs some help, and you want to have the ability to do that, I think it fills people with great pride and hope and joy to be able to help people in situations like that. So that's another thing that we're really trying to give people the freedom and independence and dignity to do with their money what they deem to be an emergency.
Oh, I agree with that. But I will also say on that, on the tail end of that a little bit,
Yep.
Rachel, that when it comes to that with a family emergency, you know, you also need to make sure that you can really help in that emergency.
Mm-hmm.
Because I heard something the other day from a motivational speaker that said, you know, we have to, you give out of the excess of your cup, not out of the cup. The cup is for
Mm-hmm.
you. So you got to make sure that whenever you do help with a family emergency, that you really can afford to do it. Because then if you have an emergency and you don't have any money, who's going to help you? So
Yeah,
I
it doesn't.
think you need
Yeah,
to be
it
conscious of
doesn't
that.
help you win the race if you're cutting your own foot off. So
So
I
I think
agree.
you help with that. So hey guys, I'm so excited. We have Rachel Fox here from the Sunny Day Fund, and they are really helping you and helping employers to help you with your emergency fund. We don't see that a lot. That is a great thing because we all know the big topic is retirement, and retirement is an important topic. I coach on that. But the emergency fund is really the first step even before you get to retirement. You know, you got to really be paying yourself first. You pay yourself first and you pay yourself twice in retirement and well, emergency fund and then retirement. But the emergency fund with the Secure Act 2.0 and giving employers incentive to help you help yourself. That's really what this is about, to help you to help yourself. And there are a lot of people making a whole lot of money out here, Rachel. And one thing we didn't talk about, and I know you guys aren't addressing it, but and I don't know if you were if down the road you would be able to, because I encountered this. We have a lot of people who are no longer a W-2 employee, but they are now entrepreneurs. And they have some successful businesses that they're building, but I don't see a lot of savings there myself and how they are handling it. And I don't know if somehow down the road it will get if you guys will work with like a solo entrepreneur, because they need some incentive too to save money, because a lot of their money is either going back into business or their money, they're not saving that money at all. They're spending it as well. So I know right now it's probably for employers that have probably 10 to 20 employees, but some way for those that are solo and that may be doing maybe contracting out for services, they are making a lot of money, and they have not, and I've encountered it on my end with retirement, not saving a lot at all for retirement. But they definitely need it for emergency savings as well.
Yeah, and believe me, we are fans of everybody needs to be saving, right? Regardless of your situation, your title, where you are, what you're doing, what your job is, everybody needs to be saving up for today, for their tomorrow, for everything. So yes, right now we are an employee benefit made available by the employer. There are lots of like banking and credit union programs that help individuals. And so that's a really important market that banks and credit unions fill, to really try to work with people on trying to automate some of that. It depends on how they get paid from the company and that sort of thing. But a big part of what we do is that we're talking with business owners about trying to subsidize that savings that the employee is doing. So a lot of times the employer can find a way to do that from the company funds to kind of reward themselves. You got to put your employee hat on to save sometimes, right? Even if you're an entrepreneur and you got to think, how do I automate this, right? So that it's automatic. We're big fans at Sunny Day Fund of having the employer pay a subsidized interest rate as opposed to a match on whatever the employees are accumulating. So if the employees are actually saving some money, we come to the employer and I'm saying, instead of a match where it's dollar for dollar, I would like for you to supply an interest rate, a ridiculous interest rate of like 20%, right? Because
Wow.
what is our interest rate at our current bank? Like I think mine at my brick and mortar on the corner is like 0.0 nothing, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. You'll get more money now putting it in a long-term CD. That's what
It's
I've been
crazy.
seeing.
So
Yeah.
again, it kind of goes back to our society incentivizing the wrong thing. On my savings account, I make like 0.03%. On my credit cards, I get like 3% cash back, 5% cash back. So I get more money for spending than I do for
Yeah.
savings. And that's why this
Yeah.
is all upside down. So employees haven't had a big incentive to save because of inflation and what the savings rates have been. So I'm going to the employer and I'm saying, if you want to create this financially stable workforce, this is going to have a reward component from you to encourage them to embrace these new financial changes. If the employee's treating it as a spending account and pulling money out as quickly it goes in, you know, a 20% interest rate on zero is still going to be zero. So you're not putting anything in if they're taking it out all the time.
Get out.
But if they are actually accumulating some savings, you can pay 20, 25, 30% interest rate on whatever they're saving. Now, the employer can cap it off at whatever they want it to be on an annual basis, whatever that reward is. And we actually have a higher percentage rate for hourly workers or low-waged workers. So maybe if you're making $17 to $22 an hour, your interest rate is going to be 20% from your employer that they're going to pay out to you quarterly based on your average daily balance for the previous quarter. Maybe if you're a salaried worker or you're in management, maybe your interest rate from your employer is 4%, right? It's still going to be at your rate at the bank, but remember, they're putting more money in, right? So we kind of have like a reverse discrimination kind of model so that we have employees that are making less have a huger incentive. They're still going to have the same annual cap, but they get that money quicker because of their advanced interest rate. Because again, they're putting in a smaller amount. Maybe they're only putting in $20 a paycheck instead of $100 a paycheck.
Gotcha.
So they need a higher rate to kind of catch them up, if that makes sense. And that's part of our big, like I'm going to toot our own horn a little bit because yesterday we were announced as one of the winners of the Inclusive FinTech 50 Club. And it really acknowledges companies that are doing their part to kind of create financial inclusion and tear down some barriers to financial opportunities for people. And that's a big part of what we do. We have a big, we're a strong DEI company, and we really think that there are some employees who have kind of been marginalized in the conversations around financial wellness. And I think they've been historically underserved by the banking industry, or maybe there's a trust factor for a lot of them where they have to provide tax documentation, or they have to go through a credit check, or they have to go through things. This is a solution, a Sunny Day Fund, where we can deliver it directly through the employer and they don't need any of those documentation.
Okay, great. Well, I mean, any incentive, any avenue that's easy for people to save money and to be able to access that money, I think I definitely support. So I just such a great conversation, Rachel. We could go on, but I want to thank you so much for coming on. As I said, it's National Financial Planning Month, and emergency savings is a pillar in a financial plan. So you all listening to us today or whenever you hear this, you can go to a financial planner. The financial planner is going to talk to you about an emergency fund. That is one of the things they're going to talk to you about building. And you got to have an emergency fund. And the big thing for all of this with an emergency fund, sunny day fund, rainy day fund is having the money to fund it. And if your money is being spent and you have no idea where it's going and you're doing what I call swiping and signing for $2.50, you are and you continue that behavior, you won't have that sunny day fund. And all of us 100% of us need an emergency fund for the sunny days and for the rainy days, for all of them. So I want to thank my guest today, Rachel Fox, the manager of business development for the Sunny Day Fund, for coming on and talking about their work that they are doing and continuing to do with the Secure Act 2.0, and also just in the huge global marketplace of helping employers to give employees, that's you, an incentive to automatically start saving and building that emergency fund and keeping your hands out of your retirement fund, because that's something that you should not be doing, going into retirement fund until you retire. That's what the money is for. So Rachel, thank you so much again for coming on. And
thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much. I love all the talking that you do. I could listen to you all day. You are singing our song, and I hope everybody will listen to you because you have some wisdom to hand out. And I think everybody needs that, because I think we all need a little bit of a help up. I don't think that a lot of people have gotten as much guidance as they need, maybe to have a really financially strong future. So I'm really glad that you're doing what you're doing. Keep it up.
Okay, same here and same for Sunny Day. And I absolutely agree with you. You know, I've said it for many times, and it's true. We've all learned truth. We've learned money by trial and error, and
Right.
we've made a lot of errors. But, you know, with the advancement of the internet and technology and people connecting and collaborating and creating, information is now out here to help people to get it. So, you know,
And
and of
it's
course,
never too late to start. It's never too
oh,
late to
never,
start.
never,
Yeah.
ever too late to start. You just got to get started.
That's
So,
right.
so I'm Rita Oliver, the CEO and founder of Strategies, Options, and Solutions, your wealth management specialist and your financial coach, helping you to prepare to retire with money and make it last. And part of being able to do that is you got to save that money. So, and you got to still have that emergency savings and retirement. And I want to thank again my guest, Rachel Fox from the Sunny Day Fund. So you guys listen to this, please share this out and do what she says. And if your employer is not part of working with the Sunny Day Fund, then you need to contact Rachel or go to her website and contact them so that they can have make a visit and have a conversation with your employer so you guys can start doing this. Right,
We'd love
Rachel?
to. Yep, absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. That's what we're all about.
Okay. All right. Great. Well, thank you guys so much. Please share this out. Please watch it and please take action as well. All right. Bye-bye.